Alexandre Dumas was one of the most famous writers in the world. He wrote exciting stories about adventure, friendship, and history. Many people know his books like The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo. But who was this man? Let's travel back in time to learn about his life. Alexandre Dumas was born on July 24, 1802, in a small town called Villers-Cotterêts, France. His father, Thomas Alexandre Dumas, was a general in the French army. His mother, Marie-Louise Elizabeth Labouré, was the daughter of a hotel owner. The Dumas family had a special story. Alexandre's father was born in Haiti, which was then a French colony. His father was the son of a French nobleman and an enslaved African woman. This made Alexandre Dumas mixed race, which was unusual in France at the time. Sadly, when Alexander was only 4 years old, his father died. After that, the family had very little money. Alexander's mother worked hard to give him an education, but they could not afford expensive schools. As a boy, Alexander loved stories. His mother told him tales about his father's adventures in the army. Young Alexander dreamed of becoming a hero like his father. He also enjoyed reading books, especially stories about history and adventure. However, because the family was poor, Alexander had to start working when he was a teenager. He became a clerk for a local lawyer. The job was boring, but it gave him time to read and write. He even taught himself to write better by copying letters and legal documents. When Alexander turned 20, he decided to move to Paris, the capital of France. He wanted to find a better life. In Paris, he got a job working for the Duke of Orleans, who later became King Louis-Philippe of France. This job helped him meet important people. Alexander also started writing plays and articles for magazines. His first play, Henry III and His Court, was performed in 1829. It was a big success. People loved the drama and the exciting scenes. This play made Alexander famous in Paris. After his success in the theater, Alexandre Dumas began writing novels. At that time, many novels were published in newspapers, one chapter at a time. Readers would buy the newspaper every week to follow the story. This was called a serial novel. Dumas wrote many serial novels, and they became extremely popular. His stories were full of sword fights, secret plots, and brave heroes. One of his most famous novels is The Three Musketeers, published in 1844. The story is about a young man named D'Artagnan who goes to Paris to become a musketeer, a soldier who protects the king. There, he meets 3 friends, Athos, Porthos, and Aramis, and together they have many adventures. The novel's famous line is "All for one, and one for all," which shows the importance of friendship. Another famous novel is The Count of Monte Cristo, published the same year. It tells the story of Edmond Dantes, a man who is unfairly sent to prison. He escapes, finds treasure, and takes revenge on the people who hurt him. Both books are still loved today and have been made into movies and TV shows. Alexandre Dumas wrote very quickly. Some people say he wrote as fast as he talked. But he did not work alone. He had helpers, called collaborators, who did research and wrote parts of the stories. Auguste Maquet was his most important collaborator. Maquet helped Dumas create the plots for The Three Musketeers and The Count of Monte Cristo. Even so, Dumas' name was the only one on the books because he was the main writer. Dumas earned a lot of money from his books, but he also spent it quickly. He loved to live in a grand style. He built a large house outside Paris called the Château de Monte Cristo. He filled it with expensive furniture, art, and even a zoo. He often invited friends to big parties. However, Dumas' spending habits caused problems. By the 1850s, he had many debts and had to sell his beautiful house. Dumas' life was not always easy. Because of his African heritage, some people in France treated him unfairly. They made racist comments about him, but Dumas never hid his background. He was proud of his father and his family history. In his writing, he often included characters from different races and cultures. For example, in The Count of Monte Cristo, the character Haiti is a Greek princess, and Abbé Faria, who helps Edmond Dantes, is from Italy. Dumas also traveled a lot. He visited countries like Belgium, Italy, and Russia. In 1860, he went to Sicily, an island in Italy, to help a man named Giuseppe Garibaldi fight for Italian unification. Dumas believed in freedom and supported revolutions in many countries. He even wrote a book about his travels in Sicily called The Garibaldians. In his later years, Dumas faced financial troubles and health problems. He continued writing, but his new books were not as popular as his earlier ones. He moved to live with his son, Alexandre Dumas fils, who was also a famous writer. Dumas père, the father, and Dumas fils, the son, had a complicated relationship, but they respected each other's work. Alexandre Dumas died on December 5, 1870, in Puys, France. He was 68 years old. At the time, France was at war with Prussia, so his death was not widely noticed. But in 2002, on the 200th anniversary of his birth, the French government moved his body to the Panthéon in Paris. The Panthéon is a special building where France's greatest heroes are buried. This showed how much the French people admired Dumas and his work. Today, Alexandre Dumas is remembered as one of the greatest storytellers in history. His books have been translated into over 100 languages. Every year, thousands of visitors go to the Château de Monte Cristo to learn about his life. His stories teach us about courage, loyalty, and the power of hope. For example, in The Count of Monte Cristo, Edmond Dantes never gives up, even when life is very hard. In The Three Musketeers, the friends stick together no matter what. If you read Dumas' books, you will notice that many scenes are based on real historical events. Dumas loved history, but he liked to make it more exciting. He often changed details or added drama to create a better story. For example, the real King Louis XIII of France was not as interesting as the king in The Three Musketeers, so Dumas invented new scenes and characters. Alexandre Dumas also wrote plays, travel books, and even a cooking dictionary. He loved food and enjoyed writing about it. His Grand Dictionnaire de Cuisine was published after his death. It includes recipes, stories about food, and advice for cooks. Dumas' life was as adventurous as his books. He fought in revolutions, traveled to exotic places, and met famous people. He once said, "Life is a storm, my young friend. You will bask in the sunlight one moment, be shattered on the rocks the next. What makes you a man is what you do when that storm comes." This quote shows his belief in facing challenges with courage. Even though he lived 200 years ago, Alexandre Dumas' stories feel modern. His characters are full of life, and his plots are full of surprises. Young readers today still enjoy the adventures of D'Artagnan and Edmond Dantes. If you visit Paris, you can see statues of Dumas and his characters. There is even a metro station named after him. Alexandre Dumas' birthday, July the 24th, is celebrated by book lovers around the world. On this day, people read his books, watch movie adaptations, or visit places connected to his life. In Villers-Cotterêts, his hometown, there is a museum in the house where he was born. The museum has letters, books, and personal items that belong to Dumas. In conclusion, Alexandre Dumas was a man who turned his dreams into stories. He faced many difficulties, poverty, racism, and failure, but he never stopped writing. His books remind us that with imagination and determination, we can create something extraordinary. As Dumas wrote in The Three Musketeers, the merit of all things lies in their difficulty. This means that the hardest challenges are the most rewarding. So, the next time you see a copy of The Count of Monte Cristo or The Three Musketeers, remember the man who wrote them. His life was as thrilling as his novels, and his legacy will live forever.